So in general, the draft is not really an art or a science. It's borderline a crapshoot. Like you do your due diligence, you do your homework on these guys, you try to get them in when you draft them, but there's no guarantee that any guy will work. There's been numerous can't miss picks that have been bust. There's been late round draft picks that turn to Hall of Famers. Just look at Tom Brady. But this year in particular just seems a little bit more eerie because expectations and predictions and opinions are all over the place. There's so many questions of how many quarterbacks will go in the first round, how many will go in the top 10, who will be the number one overall pick. Will people trade up? Will people trade down? There's a lot of speculation everywhere, and I think we should just buckle up our seatbelts when it comes to this 2022 draft. But with it being in Las Vegas, I want to go into some expectations for the Carolina Panthers. And since this is a betting city and Sin City of Las Vegas, I'm going to set some over-unders for the Panthers' expectations and make some choices about if I expect over this amount or below this amount. And I'd like you guys to join with me. But before I get into that, my name is Aaron Duncan with Unnecessary Bluntness Sports Talk. I start off every video by saying, "What up, dope?" And here on Unnecessary Bluntness Sports Talk, I do recap and analysis of the Panthers. So if you want to see more videos, hit the subscribe button down below and the bell icon that says all notifications. That way you don't miss a thing. And please give this video a thumbs up because, it helps me on the algorithm. It tells me that you like the content. It shows YouTube that you're engaging with it. So I really appreciate that. But before, give me your bold prediction for the NFL draft for the Panthers down below in the comments, and we'll see how it turns out if it's right after this weekend is over coming up. But in every scenario that comes also, I want you to give me your opinion. Do you think over or under certain numbers? And I'll explain them as we go, but let me know down below in the comments, do you think this is going to be over or under these numbers? All right, let's get into it. So the first metric we're going to go into is the number of draft day trades. So do you think that the Panthers will have over or under 3.5 draft day trades? That means, do you think they'll have below 3.5? That means you think they'll have 3 or less, or above, meaning they'll have at least 4. Now, Scott Fitterer has set the precedent in his first year of being GM. Last year, they had a total of 5 trades. 5. And this has been kind of unheard of because they kept moving back, kept moving up. They traded up for Terrace Marshall Jr. They traded around all these times to get 6th-round picks, mid-round picks, and ended up getting 11 guys. Now, that's a whole haul of picks. And for them to have 5 last year, a lot of people have been starting to know Scott Fitterer is the guy that's not going to sit on his hands. And with them only having 6 draft picks this year and only 1 in the top 100, many people are predicting that they will. So let me know, do you think they'll have over or under 3.5? My opinion, I think they're going to have over. Now, granted, they did bring in a lot of prospects last year, but I still think the youth movement is real on this team. I think they want to get in as many bodies as possible. In Seattle, they have this mentality. They want to bring as much young talent, get their hands on them, try to develop them. If they don't work out, they don't work out. They have that mentality that it's a numbers game, that the more prospect that you can bring in, the better chance you have at hitting on them, because it's not really a science. It's a crapshoot. So for them to only sit on 6 picks just seems unheard of, especially only have 1 in the top 100. I think they're going to try to trade back. I think that's their preferred move, is to trade back. And if they can't, they're going to draft a tackle. But I still do not see them only having 1 draft pick in the top 100. I think Scott Fitterer definitely gets a deal done, a couple deals done. And I'm going with 4 draft day trades. And I think they recoup some picks. They may end up around 7 or 8, in my opinion, after it's all said and done, if they move some players around and stuff. But I still think that I expect a young player to possibly get traded for draft picks. Maybe they acquire a quarterback on day 2 or 3 when it comes to a free agent like Jimmy G or somebody like that, or just trades in general. But I expect over 3.5. So just to piggyback, that brings me into my next scenario, and that comes to draft picks. Now, the Panthers are sitting at 6 total selections right now. And like I said, with those trades, I expected to change, but I made the line at 7.5. Do you think the Panthers will have over or under 7.5? If you pick under 7.5, that means you think they'll have 7 or less. If you think over, you'll think they'll have over 7 or at least 8 or more. I'm going to go with over. They're not going to make all those draft trades that I predicted in the last segment and not have at least 8 draft picks, in my opinion. That's only acquiring 2. Now, do they move players? Do they move future picks? They seem to be concerned about mortgaging future picks to try to make up those day 2 or 3 picks that they missed out with the Sam Darnold trade. But I still think that they get back into that range somehow. Yes, they have a couple of day 3 picks that are almost crapshoots. You can build the roster and find some depth there, but it's just too deep of a draft, in my opinion, for them to sit on their hands. If I think they're going to move back from that first-round pick, I expect them to get at least 2 picks, maybe 3 in return. Yes, they'll give up that first, but you're swapping 1 so you don't lose there, and you added 2 more. That will put them at 8 and put him over the number. So I had to make my choices coordinated. If I think they're going to have over 3.5 draft trades, they got to have over 7.5 picks. So I'm going with the over there. But you guys let me know down below in the comments. Do you think the Panthers end up with over or under 7.5 picks? And just to piggyback on that one again, the question is on day 2 picks. Right now they have none. Do you think they will end up having over or under 1.5 day 2 picks? If you right now, like I said, they don't have any. They would have to do some homework to recoup what they gave up in the Sam Darnold trade and the CJ Henderson trade. Scott Fitterer has been on record saying that they're not overly concerned about this because they feel like this year's 3rd round pick is what they use for CJ Henderson. And if you put that thought process together, you get a 1st round talent for a 3rd round pick. The logic makes sense. It makes you feel a little bit better, but it's still hard for me to see in a draft class this deep, that's not that top heavy, them just sitting on their hands. And like I said, if I made a prediction that they're going to trade back from that number 6 spot, you expect them to get a 2nd or 3rd in that equation. So I think they will go over and get over 2 ones. I think they'll get a 2nd and a 3rd at least, along with the swap. If they're great, depending on how much who they trade with and how far they trade back, they could get an additional 1st. And so they may not end up getting multiple day 2 picks. So I think they're going to go over that number. But you guys let me know how you feel. Do you think they'll be over or under 1.5 day 2 picks, which includes the 2nd and 3rd round? So this next one is a constant thing that we've seen. And if they're not going to do anything, the Panthers are going to draft defensive players under Matt Rhule and Phil Snow and guys like that because they want to keep building up this defense as they build the offense and work on the quarterback. But I feel like they got to keep this defense suited up. Now, Phil Snow has been on record saying that they would like to add at least 3 additional players on this defense to all levels. So that means somebody on the trenches, somebody at the linebacker position, and some safety depth. He said safety depth in particular. I think we're set at corner, but I would love to see an edge guy come in. Obviously, with the Damian Wilson situation playing out, we need a linebacker probably anyway for a long-term answer to go along with Shaq, and especially with Jermaine Carter leaving. And like I said, they wanted to add some depth behind Burris, Woods, and Jeremy Chin. So I could see them adding multiple picks there, especially if they get those guys there. But the line for me is, do you think they'll draft over or under 3.5 defensive players? Now, as is, with 6 picks, if they go over 3.5, some people are probably going to be pissed off because the O-line definitely needs some addressing. You would like to maybe get a quarterback if you can draft, not to mention you want to get some more depth pieces and competition at the offensive line position, possibly even get a late running back if you could to back up Christian McCaffrey for a long term and get some more youth in there. Obviously, they feel a certain type of way about Chuba, but getting more offensive pieces seems to be what they need to focus on, even though most of the money has been spent on offense. But 3.5 seems like high, but that's, like I said, to go along with what I predicted, I think they will be making trades to get more picks. Do I think they'll go over or under? I'm thinking under 3.5 defensive players drafted for the Carolina Panthers just because I still think they'll only draft one guy at all 3 levels just like they said they want to. I think linebacker has to be the priority here, possibly edge too, depending on who falls to you. But I got linebacker, edge, safety as my priorities defensively. And I only got them getting 3 defensive players, but I think worst case scenario is going to be edge and linebacker that they address, and we'll see how the DB position plays out going forward, but I got them under. Let me know down below in the comments, do you think they'll have over or under 3.5 defensive players drafted this weekend? And last but not least, which is typically the most important thing you like to hear about, how many starters will come out of this draft for the Carolina Panthers? Now, I've set this one at the over-under being 1.5, meaning do you think they'll just get 1 starter or do you think they'll get at least 2 starters going forward? And for this one, I'm going with over. Obviously, the 1st round draft pick, whoever it may be, will be a starter. When I mean starter, I mean day 1 or first year starter as a rookie. So not necessarily day 1, because if they draft the quarterback, obviously there's going to be a grooming process. He may end up being down the line, but it's still considered a starter. If they go O-line, it's probably more than likely a day 1 plug and play. But I have it at 1.5. So do you think they will get over or under 1.5 starters from this draft? I'm going over because I definitely think they will get a left tackle. And if they do, it's more than likely going to be plug and play, whether you get them in the 1st or the 2nd, or maybe even the 3rd, depending on what you do, if you can get a solid offensive lineman in this draft, because it is a very deep draft class. And I think there's some good picks that they can get that can be ready day 1. They may not be a Hall of Famer, lockdown mainstay from day 1, but I still think they have the talent to be able to get out there on day 1 and develop into somebody and maybe even beat out Brady Christensen for the starting position. So I definitely think whoever's up top, in that first round is going to be a guarantee. But do I think they can get another one out of that? I think it's highly possible when it comes to that linebacker position. Maybe even the edge, depending on who it is. But I definitely think they can get a starting linebacker out of this draft in the second or third round. There's a couple guys that I have on my radar that I would be hoping that the Panthers could take a look at if they fall there, and depending on best player available. But I definitely think at linebacker and whichever their first round pick is going to be will be the two starters that come out this draft. So you guys let me know down below in the comments how many you think are going to happen. But without further ado, this weekend is going to be crazy, guys. Expect the unexpected. Thursday through Saturday is going to be nonstop anxiety. The Panthers expect them to be busy no matter what with these. And I've made these predictions. Maybe we'll revisit them in a week or so to see how things play out and we evaluate. You guys make sure you are subscribed down below to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.